Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to our show, a tribute to Singapore jazz pioneers. My name is Imelda, and it is my greatest privilege to present this first of its kind online event to recognize and honor the jazz pioneers from our little island, Singapore. Now, for many years, these amazingly talented people have given so much of their hearts and souls to this wonderful art form called jazz. Born and created in America in the late 1800s, jazz is now more than 100 years old. Since its humble beginnings in New Orleans, it is now firmly regarded as a true and original American art form and America's greatest contribution to the world of music. Now, that heart-driving swing and the lush harmonies are so popular and well-loved that it has traveled swiftly all over the world, arriving at the sunny shores of our tiny country from as early as the 1940s. Because Singapore is at the crossroads of international business and travel, with a global flow of tourists and foreign residents, there is a tiny but faithful market for jazz lovers here in our little red dot. In fact, many professional, local and foreign jazz musicians based here have had outstanding jazz performance opportunities, contributing to the growth of jazz as a small but strong subculture and placing Singapore as a leading center of jazz in Asia. Now, since the late 1980s, we have had a tight and devoted community of jazz musicians humbly performing and honing their craft in the background of niche jazz venues and music festivals. Now, our biggest and most successful jazz export and representative, pianist Mr. Jeremy Montero, has catapulted Singapore to the forefront of the jazz world with his numerous well-received recordings and international performances, making him undisputedly jazz's biggest name in Singapore. However, unbeknownst to many, there are others in our precious little community, amazing musicians, both homegrown and those who have chosen to call Singapore their homes. Now, these talented, dedicated people form the backbone of our local jazz scene, quietly and passionately working at their craft since the late 80s, contributing in no small measure to the steady growth of the jazz culture here. Our beloved pioneers each have a minimum of at least 30 years of performing and practicing this art form. They are integral to our music education scene and are teachers and mentors to the younger generation of Singapore jazz musicians today. Now, half of our musicians tonight have been performing jazz for 50 years, and even now, they are still actively performing and teaching, generously passing on their knowledge and experience to the next generation of up-and-coming jazz musicians. So much love and passion for what they do indeed. Now, tonight, we present and pay tribute to our admirable and dedicated Singapore jazz pioneers, these amazing folks who have devoted at least 30 to 50 years of their lives inspiring and leading the way for the growth of jazz here in our little red dot. It is not just a treat to be here, watching and listening to them live. It will truly be the biggest musical feast we will enjoy for a long time to come. We will be introducing each of our 25 musicians throughout the evening, so please stay on with us to get to know all of our beloved pioneers a little more. Now, while jazz requires careful intellectual listening, we do encourage you not to be shy. Feel free to dance and have fun with the music in whatever way it speaks to you. Open up your eyes, ears, and hearts to watch and listen to what our pioneers have to say through their musical skills. Now, before we start our performance segment, we have a very special someone whom we are definitely missing live tonight. Now, he is the most renowned jazz pioneer of Singapore. We are streaming him in with a short message he'd like to share with everyone.
Hello, a big shout out to my jazz friends and colleagues. I regret that I missed out on this show, but I couldn't pass up on the chance to wish all of you guys and gals all the best for the show, and congratulations to Yvette for putting this together. This is really a wonderful event and reunion to gather all of you jazz pioneers and to acknowledge your contributions, especially now in this time of COVID, when we all need a morale booster. It must be great to get together with all our musical brothers and sisters and play with each other and remind each other of who we are, how far we have come, and how much work we have put in. Of course, marvel at how, despite our jazz scene being small, it has grown into a solid and fiercely devoted subculture and a wonderful family. Tonight's performance have a minimum of 30 years experience for each performing jazz here in Singapore. Many of you are people who have inspired me and taught me as well. You guys have stayed true to your passion despite the financial challenges, despite the hard work this art form demands, and also the fact that in early days we did not have the kind of support that we now have from the public and the government in the early days. Ever since you've been mentoring, inspiring our younger generation, being a role model to the younger musicians, and taking up this jazz torch. It was my pleasure to take this journey with so many of you here in this select group tonight. On behalf of everyone listening and watching, I just want to thank you guys for all the wonderful music and musical inspiration you have given me and everyone else. With the caliber and the years of experience the musicians have tonight, I'm sure this will be a great show. Thank you again, and more power to all of you and your music, and keep swinging.
For our first number, what better way to kickstart the evening than with this sensational six? Their combined jazz playing experience totals 200 years. I'm standing in the midst of musical greatness. Now, aside from being highly sought-after performers, these six are esteemed music educators and highly respected mentors in the jazz community today. I am thrilled to introduce Mei Shum on piano, Tamago on drums, Christy Smith on bass, Greg Lyons on saxophone, and Rick Smith on guitar, as well as Mohammed Noor on percussions. Now, Mei is one of the most experienced and youthful-looking local jazz pianists. At just 22 years old, she went to Chicago and Boston in the US to study. She lived and played music there for a number of years before returning to Singapore. Now, fast forward 30 years, having spent decades playing in both the pop and jazz scenes, not only is she one of the top favorite jazz pianists, she is also one of the most highly respected teachers of jazz piano in Singapore. On a side note, Mei also enjoys baking, and when she does have spare time apart from music, the rest of us get to enjoy her yummy bakes. On some days, you might also see Mei zipping around on her bicycle. Now, Tamago is a much sought-after jazz drummer here in Singapore. Although he always says he is not a jazz drummer, he is first called for many jazz gigs, meaning that he's usually the first one on people's minds when they need a jazz drummer for a gig. Now, I guess being named after a brand of drums does play a part, but we all know that Tamago is truly one of a kind. Now, he started with Jeremy Montero's jazz band in the 80s, and aside from performing, Tamago is a renowned teacher with students hailing from as far as China. He presently teaches at the National Institute of Education, the SAF Band, and the Singapore Chinese Orchestra. Now, one thing I really admire about Tamago is his incredible discipline. He still practices drums and works out on a daily basis to keep his skills sharp and his body fit. Now, so much for the younger ones to learn from. Truly exemplary. On percussions will be Mohammed Noor, who is one of Singapore music scene's most accomplished and sought-after percussionists. Noor has been in the music scene for 40 years, and he is first called percussionist for the local and international jazz acts in Singapore. He has performed and recorded with Jeremy Montero, Louise Pragasam, guitarist Greg Chaco, the legendary Toots Thielsman, Ernie Watts, Paulina Gracia, and the list goes on. I really wish I had more time to say it all here. Now, this humble musician is truly multi-talented, and he's delighted some of us with the privilege of his hidden culinary skills. Now, let's turn to our jazz imports. On bass is Christy Smith. Wow. Christy Smith is undoubtedly the best jazz musician in Singapore, and the best that Singapore has ever had. His influence to the Singapore jazz scene has been so significant that the name Christy Smith has become synonymous with Singapore jazz. He settled in Singapore 27 years ago and has inspired so many local and foreign jazz musicians living here. Originally from the US and a graduate of the California State University, Fullerton, he has at least 50 years of performing experience, starting with his time with orchestras and big bands in the US and playing with top American pop and jazz artists before settling down in Singapore. Speaking of big roles in the development of the jazz scene here, our man on saxophone for our first number is another major mentor in the Singapore music scene, Greg Lyons. Now, Greg, originally from the UK, who has been playing music since the 70s, moved to Asia in 1993, shuttling mainly between KL and Singapore. He has taught many jazz composition and performance courses in music schools in Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore. And he leads and mentors the younger local jazz musicians in his very well-known and popular Grooveworks jazz program. Presently, he is also a lecturer at the LaSalle School of the Arts. Now, when it comes to jazz guitar, our man on guitar, Maestro Rick Smith, is the first name in jazz guitar in Singapore. Rick moved and settled here in Singapore in 1992. He goes all the way back to being the first jazz band music director for National University of Singapore Jazz Band in 1994. Among many other contributions he has made to the jazz scene here. Now, it's hard to count how many students have undergone and been inspired under Rick's tutelage since 1992. He is also presently teaching at the LaSalle School of the Arts and conducting private guitar lessons. What a formidable bunch of musicians we have for our first number this evening. I am thirsty just reading their impressive CVs. Ladies and gentlemen, please sit back and welcome our first group of jazz pioneers with this well-loved Latin jazz tune written by Mario Bauza and made popular by Tito Puente. Ladies and gentlemen, Mambo In. Our next number brings the first vocal item for tonight, featuring the exotic and sultry jazz diva, Marina Xavier. Now, Marina, a Katong Convent Girls School alumni, has performed all over the world in countries like France, Argentina, India, and almost all of Southeast Asia. She has 5 albums with over 30 years in the business. Wow, we're so proud of this amazing lady who is well known for her vivacious, exuberant performances that never fail to delight audiences everywhere. She will be accompanied on the piano by another Singapore jazz institution, the legendary Mario Serio, who came to Singapore in 1994 from his hometown of New York City. Now, Mario Serio is very much loved in our local jazz scene, not just for his musicality, but also for his personality. He is such a joy to work with. Highly in demand for his superb ability to accompany vocalists and instrumentalists, Mario's jazz skills for bebop and Latin jazz are admired all over this town. Now, Mario Serio is a very prominent name in Singapore jazz, as he has taught so many of our excellent younger local jazz musicians, people like Tan Wei Xiang, Rich Shi, Rajma Lim, and our Voice of China first runner-up, Joanna Dong. Now, Mario has inspired and raised the benchmark for jazz piano in this town when he settled here. How fortunate for our little jazz scene indeed. Now, adding that extra powerful kick to this number is local legend on saxophone, our very own and very well-loved Teo Boon Chai. Also a first-call saxophonist, Boon Chai has been in the music business for 30 years, working in the Chinese pop scene for top singers like Sandy Lam, Aaron Kwok, Tony Leung. Now, at the same time, he is also a very popular fixture in the Singapore jazz scene, known for his great improvisational skills. A frequent participant at jazz jam sessions and jazz events, Boon Chai absolutely loves to jam and is steady and skillful at his craft. Now, younger musicians in the entire music scene look up to Boon Chai, not only because he plays so well, but because of his easygoing nature, his humility and generosity, and not to mention his great working attitude. Now, Boon Chai is never late. He's always the first musician to report at any gig, and that's why he's become good friends with many of our sound engineers. Now, on drums is Singapore transplant from Chicago, Daryl Irvin, who has been residing in Singapore for the last 15 years. Daryl Irvin has performed at many of Singapore's major venues, as well as throughout the region and in the Middle East. He has worked extensively with local and regional jazz talents, such as Jeremy Montero and Michael Veripan. A professional musician for over 25 years, he has extensive experience in a wide variety of musical genres, performing with artists from all around the world, and is also a highly regarded music educator. Ladies and gentlemen, I Just Found Out About Love, written by Harold Adamson and Jimmy McHugh. Take it away, guys.
This is a tune from Showboat, which I actually learned from Christy Smith when we were performing together at Harry's all those times. I love it. I just found out about love and I like it. I like it. I like what love is doing to me. I hold you close in my arms and I like it. I like it. Oh, what a wonderful future I see. It's a one time only, yeah, a one-time dream. I can tell that it's real. I can tell by the way that I feel. Right now, I'm living it up and I like it. I like it. Hey, you, give me a clue. What's love doing to you? 'Cause it looks like you could be liking it too. Uh-huh. I like it. voice. Christy Smith. Chai, who I've known since he was a little boy. How time flies. I like it. Oh. Mario Serio. I just found out about love and I like it. I like it. I like what love is doing to me. I hold you close in my arms. Ooh, I like it. I like it. Oh, what a wonderful future I see. It's a one-time only, a one-time dream. And I know that it's real. I can tell by the way that I feel. That's right. Right now I'm living it up 'cause I like it. I like it. Hey you, give me a clue. What's love do to you? 'Cause it looks like it really looks like you could be liking it too. Oh, come on. Right now. I like it.
Now, this next number is a very special one led by longtime and well-loved Singapore permanent resident Aya Sekine from Japan. Now, Aya grew up in Singapore and has been living here for almost 40 years. She went to the Berklee College of Music in Boston in the late 80s, returned to Singapore after her studies, and has since held numerous residencies. Another first-call session musician for jazz events in Singapore, Aya has also performed with top international and regional jazz artists in many international music festivals. She is a highly regarded educator, teaching in LaSalle's School of the Arts since 2008, where she is prime facilitator of improvisational workshops. She also started the non-profit organization We Love Jazz, which promotes jazz here in Singapore. Now, in 2010, Aya founded the very popular Blue Jazz Jazz Jams that have been such an important weekly jazz session in our local jazz scene for years, because that's where many younger musicians had taken their first step in jazz. Unfortunately, it is now put on hold because of COVID, but we look forward to its return. Our musicians are now here to delight us with their skills and reading of the instrumental jazz standard Invitation. Yvette has been living in Singapore since 1987 and has been singing with all the local bands since, notably with Eurasia, led by Singapore jazz legend Jimmy Lee. Now, one fateful day in 1990, Yvette went to Tower Records and bought $2,000 worth of not jewelry, but jewel cases of vocal jazz CDs because she decided to focus solely on jazz. Now, she paved the way for jazz vocal improvisation here in the 90s, being the first jazz singer to scat and to do vocalese, which is the art of singing songs with lyrics and melody based on instrumental solos. She's also a pioneer of Latin jazz vocals here in Singapore, especially in the field of Afro-Cuban Latin jazz, as she herself has Latin blood from her Spanish father and feels very much at home and natural with the rhythms and the language of Latin jazz, which she so loves. Now, way back in the early 90s, Yvette was the only one singing and improvising vocally in Spanish and Portuguese. She has inspired many of our younger vocalists to go into improvisation and Latin jazz. Now, these days, apart from continuing to hone her jazz craft, Yvette teaches vocal lessons in any genre, but her specialty is, of course, jazz vocals and jazz vocal improvisation. Now, Yvette is also the executive producer of this wonderful tribute show. I'm so glad she put this entire thing together. It is certainly no mean feat. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Social Call with music by Gigi Grace, lyrics by John Hendricks, in a version by Benny Benack and Veronica Swift.
Happened to pass your doorway, gave you a buzz, that's all. Lately I've thought lots about you, I just thought I'd pay a social call. Do you recall the old days? We used to have a ball. Now that I'm lonesome without you, I just thought I'd pay a social call. I'd lie and say things I just swear, but to tell the truth, I haven't been too well. So if you should try to kiss me, promise that I won't stall. Maybe we'll get back together, starting with this incidental, elemental, simple social call. Do you remember all the good times that we had, my baby boy? I'll never forget, you've got the greatest smile in the world. My sugar plum baby, don't let her crush. I simply had to say hello once more. And am I insane, or do I really see a world where you and I could be together forever? When buttercup don't slam to turn my face, unless you really want to spill my heart all over the place. Oh, I guess we're gonna spend some time with this. I'm trying to break my habit of you. Oh, since we're back together, supposed to we should try to start anew. Dear, what do you say? Oh, I can take it. My heart is breaking. I'm laying in on the line. If you can find it in your mind that there was just a little itsy bitsy chance that you would miss me, let's give it a whirl. Baby, we played this game 1,000 million times. I should throw your heart in jail for all of its crimes. You say that you love me and I think that it's true, but I should sit at home waiting for you. When we're together, there's always stormy weather, and I really feel like sitting on a beach with you out of reach. Whenever you smirk, I get weak on the knees. But if you're a jerk, I'll do not all of your pleas. Well, I suppose just wondering, could it hurt but just one thing more? I want to all your tricks, but if you slip up, I'll show you the door. I must be crazy 'cause I'm hanging around, but if you do me wrong, I'll run you out of this town. I decided to give you one more chance now, to prove you're the man who can love me every day, never leave my heart ever again. I'd lie and say things are just swell, but to tell the truth, I haven't been too well. But if you should try to kiss me, I promise that I won't. So maybe we'll get back together, starting with this inside. Simple social call.
Now, for this next number, we have the addition of bassist, guitarist, composer, and arranger Mario Lopez from Mexico. Now, in 1991, Mario and his pianist wife, Alina, founded the Latin group Irezon. Their first album, Vendo Rumba, was recorded live, comprising compositions and arrangements by Mario and Alina. Now, they came to Singapore in 1999 and very quickly invigorated the Latin jazz scene. Now, at that time, only Yvette Atienza and American guitarist Greg Chaco were doing Afro-Cuban Latin jazz. But the entrance of Alina and Mario quickly expanded and fired up the scene. Now, as you can imagine, having real Latino musicians added an authentic Latin flavor to the interpretations of Latin jazz standards, especially in the boleros. Now, based in Singapore for almost 21 years now, Mario, with his group Irezon, has performed in all major music festivals in Singapore and around the region. Now, it will surely be very exciting to hear the two Marios in this next piece, with Mario Lopez adding his fiery Latin touch to stoke Mario Serio's incredible Latin dexterity and energy. Now, these two hotshots will be joined by saxophonist, composer, and arranger Sean Letts. Originally from Oklahoma, USA, Sean has been living here in Singapore for 30 years and is the first call saxophonist for Jeremy Montero's performances and the section leader for the Jazz Association of Singapore Orchestra. He is also a composer and producer for jingles, film scores, his own albums, and for other artists like Ella Fernandez. Together with Tama on drums and Nor on percussions, here is a very famous Latin jazz standard, a composition by Cuban Latin jazz pianist Chucho Valdez, Mambo Influenciado. Our next number features a jazz vocalist who has also put Singapore prominently in the jazz world map. I mean, whoever hasn't heard of Jacintha ought to be smacked. Now, Jacintha is a big name in Singapore theatre and music scene. She dominated the theatre scene in the 1980s, since being a founder of TheatreWorks SG, and was a familiar face on TV and radio in the 1990s and early 2000s. With 13 albums to her name, 6 of which are audiophile jazz albums, with Groove Note Records since 1998, she has sold 100,000 albums in the jazz audiophile category. Now, such a great achievement for an Asian vocalist in the jazz world. Now, I had the pleasure of meeting Jacintha about 25 years ago in the freezing holding room of the, I believe, then TCS or SBC studios during a Christmas show. She saw me shivering, and she draped her own jacket around me and got her assistant to bring me hot water. I was not only starstruck, my heart was so warmed by that simple but incredible gesture. I am so pleased to be able to meet Jacintha again tonight, and she will be performing a cut from her first album, Here's to Ben, a tribute to Ben Webster, a tune called In the Wee Small Hours of the Morning, a popular jazz standard that has been re-recorded many times by other great jazz artists like Diana Krall, Stacey Kent, and Kurt Elling. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Jacintha.
When the sun is high in the afternoon sky, you can always find something to do. But from dusk till dawn, as the clock ticks on, something happens to you. In the wee small hours of the morning, when the whole wide world is fast asleep, you lie awake and think about the boy, and never ever think of counting sheep. When your lonely heart has learned its lesson, he'd be yours if only you'd call. In the wee small hours of the morning, that's the time he'd be yours. If only you'd call in the wee small hours of the morning. That's the time you missed him most of all.
Now, this next number will see three of our biggest local jazz talents. Composer, arranger, and pianist Nick Lim brings at least 35 years of experience in the jazz music scene in Singapore. Now, a graduate of the renowned Dick Grove School of Music in Los Angeles, he was the pianist for Chromazone, resident band of Harry's Bar at Boat Quay for over 20 years, and was resident music composer for SBC, TCS, until it became MediaCorp. Now, Nick is the composer of many of our beloved theme songs from local sitcoms like Under One Roof and Phua Chu Kang, among many others. Syed Idros on bass is probably the most low-key of our group tonight, being such a quiet, humble, and hard-working bassist. He was working with the legendary Luis Suliano and Richard Ortega in their jazz quintet at the Westin in the early 80s, and until now on one-off jazz events. With a whole lot of jazz experience, a great swing and Latin feel, Syed is the quiet but definite groove master. Now, Stephen Rufus, known as Sweet Stephen to many of us, is the biggest name on saxophone here in Singapore and so well respected by all musicians. He has been playing and teaching music for the past 30 years. Now, early in his career, he was part of the Singapore Radio and Television Orchestra, Jeremy Montero Jazz Band, and Asia Beat. He is both a highly sought-after saxophonist for jazz events and a highly regarded teacher. Now, Stephen shared with me before that I believe his first instrument was actually, if I remember correctly, the guitar. He only started playing the saxophone much later on, but aren't we glad that Stephen did. Now, here to blow everyone away with a very empowering blues for the ladies, I Am Woman. Give it up for Marina Xavier, Nick Lim, Syed Idros, Daryl Irvin, and Stephen Rufus.
Oh, yeah. This song is dedicated to all the ladies. All the ladies in the world. We don't care if you guys want to step out at this point, but actually we'd like you to be here because you should listen. You know, we ladies couldn't do what we wanted to do for a long time, and now we can. Leaders in the world are ladies. Not to talk about the singers in the world, never mind. But we ladies want to say something to you. I don't want to tell you too much. Let's leave it to the imagination. Yes, whatever imagination that is. You see, I could go on and on and on and on, but I better stop, because we haven't got that much time. But I want to tell you all what we ladies have been doing and what we can do. You know, I don't have a maid, and that's why I can wash up 44 pairs of socks and have it hand on line. Start your 9, 2 dozen shirts before you count from 1 to 9. Scoop out a drip of lip trippers, lard on the can. Make you char kway teow before you count from 1 to 10. Cause I'm a woman, W-O-M-A-N. I'll say it again. I can rub and scrub this whole house until it's shining like a dime. Feed the baby, grease the kind part of my face at the very same time. Get all dressed up, go out swinging till 3 a.m. Wake up at 5, jump up at 6. I'll say it again. If you come to me hungry, I'll fill you full of grits. If you come to me all hexed up, I'll break that spell. I don't know what it is you want, honey. But if it's loving you need, then I kiss you, give you the shivering fits, cause I'm a woman. W-O-M-A. I'll say it again. Take it away, Stephen. Oh, yeah. Stephen Rufus. Oh, yes. Have you ever been misunderstood to be a woman with your hair that long? Come on. I can rub and scrub. I have a $100 bill that it goes from here to Kingdom Town. I don't tell too many lies, but that was one. So many things that I can do. I can make a dress out of a beanbag and a man out of you. Cause I'm a woman, a W-O-M-A-N. I'll say it again and again and again and again. I'm a woman, a W-O-M-A-N. I'll say it one more time. I'm a woman, W-O-M-A-N. Learn how to spell it, fellows. Learn how to spell it backwards. To that I say, oh, yeah. There are another 365 verses to that tune for each day of the year. And we don't have the time to do it. But you ladies can write one each night and send it to marinaxavier@hotmail.com. And we'll have a marathon of I'm a Woman. I'm sure we can do it, ladies in the house. I want to hear you say, yeah. If you don't, I will say it. Yeah. W-O-M-A-N. Thank you, Yvette, for doing all this because she's a very special person and I can't believe she organized all this together because she's a woman. Ah!
Now, this next item is probably the most exciting one in our program tonight because it has never been done in Singapore jazz live streaming history before. And what more, a double piano bill between two of the best female jazz pianists in Singapore. Woohoo, here's to woman power. Now, written by Chick Corea, this was a tribute to the great jazz pianist, Bud Powell, aptly titled Bud Powell. Now, I jokingly call this piece Bell Power because, ladies and gentlemen, the amazing Aya and the magnificent May with their tribute to Chick Corea. Our next number features a jazz singer who played a large part in organizing the biggest jazz associations here in Singapore. John Wong was resident singer and part of the founding group of the Thompson CC Jazz Club when it started in 1998 by architect Eddie Chan. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Thompson CC Jazz Band, which emerged from a community club, houses and hosts three of the biggest active jazz big bands in Singapore. John Wong then went on to partner others to form the Jazz Club, Jazz at Southbridge, until 2005, before it moved to the Esplanade. Now, presently, he is founding member of the Tanglin Jazz Club, which hosts the longest running jazz jam sessions here in Singapore. Please welcome John, Mario Serio, Syed Idros, Daryl Irvin, and Sean Letts with the jazz classic Bye Bye Blackbird.
Pack up all your cares and woes, here I go, swinging low. Bye bye, bye bye blackbird. When somebody waits for me, sugar sweet and so is she. Bye bye blackbird. 'Cause no one here can love and understand me. Oh, what hard luck stories they all hand me. Make my bed like the light, I'll arrive late tonight. Blackbird, bye-bye. Pack up all your cares and woes, here I go and swinging low. Bye-bye-bye-bye-bye-bye-bye, blackbird. When somebody waits for me, sugar sweet and so is she. Bye bye, bye bye, bye blackbird. No one here can love and understand me. Oh, what hard luck stories they all hand me. Make my bed out like the light, I'll arrive late tonight, blackbird. Take it away, Mario. cares and woes. Here I go and swinging low. Blah, 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 blackbird. When somebody waits for me, sugar sweet and so is she. Bye, 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 blackbird. No one here can love and understand me. Oh, what hot luck stories they all hand me. Make my bed like the light. I'll arrive late tonight. Blackbird, blackbird, blackbird. Bye 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 bye.
Now, the next item we are presenting is an exciting, funky version of the great jazz standard, Night in Tunisia, composed by jazz great Dizzy Gillespie, featuring our own greats, Indra Ismail on piano, Eddie Jensen on bass, Stephen Rufus on sax, Tama on drums, Mohammad Noor on percussions, and Yvette Atienza on vocals. Now, on keys will be Indra Sharil Ismail, brother of Cultural Medallion awardee, the late Iskandar Ismail. Now, with so much talent in the family, Indra also graduated from the Berklee College of Music and is very versatile in many genres, including jazz. Now, he was music director for several National Day shows, MediaCorp Surya Channel, and also a judge in the recent Anugerah Surya Vocal Competition. Now, Indra does beautiful arrangements regularly for MediaCorp shows and musicals, such as Dick Lee's Beauty World and Hot Pants, just to name a few. Eddie Jensen on bass is a local legend, the man everyone wants to play and groove with, a superb groove master. Eddie makes musical magic with his eyes closed and his hands tied. Okay, I'm kidding, but you know what I mean when it comes to Eddie, because he is just so cool. Now, Eddie also started playing jazz in the 80s with Jeremy Montero's jazz fusion band, Jeremzy, and has since been playing and supporting so many of us with that solid bass underline every night here in Singapore. Now, here is Night in Tunisia.
It's the same mood above you, a glow with its cool evening light. But shining a night in Tunisia never does a chance so bright. The stars are aglow in the heavens, but only the wise understand. Shining a night in Tunisia, they guide you through the desert sand. Words fail to tell a tale, too exotic to be done. Each night's a deeper night in a world ages old. Currents of the day seem to vanish, the ending of day brings release. Wonderful night in Tunisia, where the nights are filled with peace. Oh, Indonesia never does it shine so bright. The stars regard the heavens, but only the wise understand. It's shining at night in Indonesia. They guide you through the desert sand. Words fail to tell and tell, too exotic to be told. Each night's a deeper night in a world ages old. The kids of the day seems to vanish. The ending of day brings release. It's wonderful night in Indonesia. Well, the nights are filled with
Now, before we bring on our next number, I'd like to have a quick chat with the biggest treasure our Singapore jazz scene will ever have, the name synonymous with Singapore jazz, Christy Smith. Now, Christy, just a curious question. You've been in Singapore for 27 years. What is your favorite local dish?
I'd have to say chicken rice.
Chicken rice?
Yeah.
Does it matter if it's roasted or the white one?
Well, I like them both.
You like them both?
Because as long as I have the chili on it, it's going to make it chicken rice.
Yes, chicken rice with chili, definitely a good choice. Now, down to the serious question. Now, having been here for 27 years and being such an integral part of the local jazz scene, what are some of the positive changes or growth you have seen from then till now?
Well, from the beginning, it's always been positive because it was already a music scene actually before I arrived. And they had jazz clubs such as the Western Somerset Bar, which I was able to start my journey here at Somerset Western Hotel and Harry's Bar, and they had music, a lot of music all over the place. So I didn't expect to see so much music in terms of jazz and live music. So eventually I felt this was a positive thing that I could be a part.
Wow, indeed. And we can't thank you enough for choosing to come to Singapore all those years ago and for sharing all that musical goodness with us. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're most welcome. And I have something else to say. That it was because of being in Singapore, I had got a chance to see some of the old timers that represented the music a long time ago, from when Louis Armstrong came here in 1964. And I was able to play with some of those guys that actually played with him and continue on the legacy of the music to the future generations. And I think that's what it's all about, that wherever the music was born, as in America, it definitely had made a precedence in Singapore. So that made me feel like right at home to share and be shared with. So I'm very thankful for the musicians that I have met that are older and younger with me than me, and it's all been inspiring all the way.
Thank you so much for sharing this legacy with the older musicians and the younger ones. Thank you. Now, our next number, Autumn in New York, is a jazz standard and popular song composed by the great Vernon Duke for his Broadway musical Thumbs Up. A beautiful tune with many versions of the song recorded over the years by numerous musicians and singers. Let's now enjoy this through the beautiful sounds of Rick Smith on guitar, very ably accompanied by Christy Smith on bass and Daryl Irvin on drums. We now have the lovely Shumei on violin to join us for this next number. Now, it is very interesting for people to see a jazz violinist because they are very rare. Now, starting with the Singapore Symphony Orchestra in the early 90s playing classical music, Shumei later branched out into jazz and became one of the only 2 jazz violinists in Singapore, the late July Tan being the other. Now, Shumei became highly sought after as a jazz violin soloist, known for her musical and feminine charm. Since then, Shumei started her own school, Mandeville Conservatory, and is now a highly sought-after educator, teaching classical and jazz violin. Here once again, to perform with Shumei are Marina Xavier, Nick Lim, Eddie Jensen, Tony Z, and Stephen Rufus in a jazz tune called Goody Goody, composed by Matty Melnack with lyrics by the great Johnny Mercer.
So you met someone, finally got you on your heels. Goody, goody. Met someone and now you know how it feels. Goody, goody. You gave your heart to her like I gave mine to you. And you broke it in little pieces. Now, how do you do? You lie in bed singing the blues all night. Goody, goody. You think that love is a bundle of dynamite. Yes, you do. Well, hooray and hallelujah. You got it coming to you. So goody, goody for him. Goody, goody for me. And I hope you're satisfied, you rascal, you. So you met someone, finally got you on your nails. You met someone and now you know how it feels. Gave your heart to her like I gave mine to you. Oh, she broke it in little pieces. Tell me now, how do you do it? Lie in bed singing the blues all night. Goody, goody. You think that love is a bundle of dynamite? Yes, you do. But hooray and hallelujah, God coming to you. Goody, goody for him. Goody, goody for her. Your love has been denied, 'cause I've been taken for a ride. I hope you're satisfied, rascal, you. Your love has been denied, you rascal, you. Goody, goody.
We'd now like to present a very beautiful ballad and famous one in the jazz lexicon, one of the most iconic ballads in jazz repertoire, Lush Life. Now with Jacinta providing soulful vocals, behind her will be jazz stalwarts Mario Serio, Christy Smith, and the legendary drummer Tony Z. Now, Singapore had a very vibrant and active drumming scene for many years, and Tony Z has always been one of the top favorite drummers, playing drums for the last 50 years till now. Now, he played jazz with Jeremy Montero in the late 80s with the band Jeremzy. Now, he was the pioneer of studio drumming in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Now, this requires precision in timing and technique, and he used to rule in this area, being a first-class sight reader. Now, bestowed with the prestigious Compass Award for Artistic Excellence in 2014. What an honor for us tonight to have Tony Z perform for us.
I used to visit all the very gay places, those come what may places, where one relaxes on the axis of the wheel of life to get the feel of life from jazz and cocktails. The girls I knew had sad and sullen gray faces with distant traces that used to be there. You could see where they had been washed away by too many through the day. 12 o'clock tales. Then you came along with your siren song to tempt me to madness. I thought for a while that your poignant smile was tinged with the sadness of a great love for me. Ah, yes, I was wrong again. I was wrong. Life is lonely again, and only last year everything seemed so fine. Now life is awful again, a trough full of hearts could only be a bore. A week in Paris will ease the bite of it. All I care is to smile in spite of it. I'll forget you, I will, while yet you are still burning inside my brain. Romance stifling those who strive. I live a lush life in some small town, and there I'll be while I rot with the rest of those whose lives are lonely too.
Now, I am so excited to go into this Latin jazz portion of our show, featuring our Singapore permanent resident artists from Mexico. Now, earlier you heard Mario Lopez with Mario Serio in Mambo Influenciado. Now you will hear him play with his wife, Alina. Now, this husband and wife team arrived in our shores in the 90s and contributed greatly to the growth of the Latin jazz genre here. A classical trained Latin pianist who loves jazz, Alina has been performing Latin pop and Latin jazz for more than 28 years. She writes music for her band Ivreson, as well as music for theatre and dance companies. Now, in 2013, she was awarded the highest honor given by the Mexican government, the Oatley Medal, in recognition for her passion for disseminating Mexican culture and the arts worldwide. On drums will be Mr. Tan Chin Bu, most definitely someone who has made many significant contributions to the Singapore jazz world. Now, Chin Bu started playing drums in 1976 for the NUS Stage Band. He was always involved in big bands, having played with the Yamaha Stage Big Band and the Safra Big Band. Now, he joined the RTS Orchestra in 1980 as drummer. Now, RTS is Radio Television Singapore, now known as MediaCorp, where he was given a scholarship to Berkeley. Upon his return, he became the conductor and music director of the TCS Orchestra. He became a resident conductor for the NUS Jazz Band, and presently, he is a lecturer at the Ngee Ann Polytechnic and also conducts drum lessons in international schools. Our next number, If You Never Come to Me, a beautiful piece by Antonio Carlos Jobim. Take it away, guys. Now, as we come to the end of our show, we'd like to share this beautiful Latin jazz classic composed by Pedro Flores, one of Puerto Rico's best-known composers of ballads and boleros, and presented by this wonderful group of Latin music lovers. Alina on piano, Mario Lopez on bass, Tan Chen Bu on drums, Muhammad Noor on percussions, Rick Smith on guitar, Stephen on sax, and Yvette on vocals. Here is Obsession.
Alto está el cielo del mundo, hondo es el mar profundo. No habrá manera en el mundo, un amor profundo no rompa por ti. Amor es el pan de la vida, amor es la copa divina, amor es un algo sin nombre, obsesión del hombre con una mujer. Sucinaron contigo, el mundo es testigo de mi frenesí. Donde me ponga el destino, serás para mí. Para mí. Amor es el pan de la vida, amor es la copa divina, amor es un algo sin nombre, obsesión del hombre con una mujer. hondo está el mar profundo, la pradera del mundo, amor profundo, aroma por ti. Amor es el pan de la vida, amor es la copa divina, amor es un algo sin nombre, obsesión del hombre con una mujer. Estoy obsesionado contigo, el mundo es testigo de mi frenesí. Por más que yo ponga el destino, serás para mí, para mí. Amor es el pan de la vida, amor es la copa divina, amor es un algo sin nombre, obsesión del hombre con una mujer. Amor es un algo sin nombre, obsesión del hombre con una mujer. Amor es un algo sin nombre, obsesión del hombre con una mujer.
We hope you enjoyed tonight's tribute to our esteemed pioneers of jazz in Singapore. Now, I certainly have. Please stay with us just a little bit more as we share a final video montage featuring our other Singapore jazz pioneers who are unable to join us, and we miss them so much tonight. Thank you, everyone, for being here with us. Please continue to support live music online and help us to keep music alive. Good night, everyone, and God bless.
dynamite, yes he did. But hooray and hallelujah, God coming to you. Goody, goody for him, goody, goody for her. Your love has been denied, 'cause I've been taken for a ride. I hope you're satisfied, you rascal, you. Your love has been denied, you rascal, you.